The Arizona sun was a molten disk sinking slowly behind jagged mesas, casting long shadows across the vast expanse of desert and scrubland. Rancher Cole Thompson guided his weary horse along a rocky ridge, the reins pressing into his calloused hands as he scanned the horizon. The day had been long, hot, and unforgiving. Dust clung to his boots, sweat streaked his brow, and the ache in his shoulders reminded him that ranching was as much labor of endurance as of skill. Yet the land called to him as no town or city ever had. It demanded respect and loyalty, and in return, it offered freedom few men ever knew. The herd had been restless all day, spooked by hawks circling overhead and a sudden wind that swept the plains in swirling clouds of sand. Cole had managed to corral the strays, but the thought of rustlers, always lurking where the land was roughest and the law weakest, never left his mind. Every creak of leather or snap of a twig could signal danger. And in a place where men were often forced to make split-second decisions between life and death, caution was survival. Rounding a bend near a narrow canyon, Cole caught sight of movement in the deepening shadows. Two figures emerged slowly, stepping carefully over rocks and loose soil. Their pace was measured, their bodies lean and strong, but there was an unmistakable weariness in their gait. They were girls, no older than 16 or 17, dressed in rough-spun tunics, their long hair tied with leather strips and adorned with small feathers that swayed with each step. Dust clung stubbornly to their skin, and their moccasins were frayed, evidence of miles traveled over unforgiving terrain. Cole tightened his grip on the reins and called out, his voice carrying across the canyon, "Hey there. Who's out there?" The girls froze, exchanging glances that spoke of uncertainty, fear, and a spark of courage. Nayeli, the one in front, stepped forward slowly, her hands visible, palms open. "We mean no harm," she said, her voice soft but clear, carrying just enough authority to show she was not a child entirely. "We are Apache. My sister and I, we have nowhere to go." Cole's instincts screamed caution. The West was unforgiving, and interactions with strangers, especially Apache, could turn volatile in an instant. Bandits, feuds, and old prejudices could erupt without warning. Yet something in their eyes stopped him. There was no deceit there, only a blend of fear and resolve that tugged at an unexpected corner of his heart. "What are your names?" he asked, his tone firm but not hostile. "I am Nayeli," the first girl replied, bowing her head slightly. "And this is my sister, Ayoka." Cole studied them carefully. The girls were small, yet there was a fierce resilience about them. Their journey had been long, the dirt streaked across their faces, their clothing threadbare and patched, told him everything he needed to know. The desert spared no one, and yet they had survived its harshness to reach him. He considered sending them on their way, as he often did with wandering strangers, but a quiet voice inside him whispered that these girls were different. "Why are you out here alone?" Cole asked, dismounting his horse and resting a hand on the saddle. "We lost our family," Nayeli replied. Her eyes shimmered in the last light, reflecting sorrow yet determination. "We've traveled as far as we could, and we heard of your ranch. We heard you help those who are in need. If you will allow it, we wish to stay. We will work for our keep." Cole's brow furrowed. Taking responsibility for two Apache girls in this era was not a simple decision. Danger lurked everywhere, hostile neighbors, rustlers, and the unpredictable hostility of men who did not tolerate those outside their own. Yet, there was a sincerity in their plea, a humility and courage that few men of their age could muster. He considered the long days ahead, the extra labor, the potential risks, but also the loneliness that had long haunted him in the wide, empty spaces of his ranch. Before he could speak, Ayoka stepped forward, placing a careful hand on her sister's arm. "Sir," she said, voice calm yet firm, "we do not ask for charity. We only ask shelter. We will cook, clean, tend the horses, and help with the cattle. We will do anything to earn our place here. Please, let us stay." Cole hesitated. He had always believed in self-reliance. But there was something different about these girls, a combination of strength, honesty, and unspoken promise, that drew him in. I will let you stay, he said finally, his voice slower than usual, carrying the weight of decision. But there are rules. You follow them, and you stay safe. You break them, and you leave. Understand? The girls nodded immediately. Nayeli's lips curved into a small smile as she spoke softly, yet with confidence. We understand, sir. We are yours if you want us. Cole's eyes met hers, a mixture of surprise and something else he couldn't name, perhaps relief, perhaps a hint of hope. Then welcome to the ranch, he said. From sunrise to sunset, this land is yours as much as mine. Work hard, stay honest, and you'll have nothing to fear here. In the days that followed, Nayeli and Ayoka proved themselves to be more than capable. They mended fences, carried water from the well, cleaned the barn, and fed the animals with care. They worked silently when necessary and laughed lightly when the mood allowed. Cole watched in astonishment as the girls adapted to life on the ranch with astonishing speed. They possessed a natural understanding of animals, of weather, and of the subtle rhythm of land that comes only from those who have grown up attuned to nature. Despite the harshness of the work, their presence brought a new energy to the homestead. Cole had grown used to solitude. The wind, the creak of the barn door, and the distant howl of coyotes had been his only companions. Now, laughter mingled with the sounds of the ranch, a melody of life returning to a place that had long felt lonely and stark. Nights around the campfire became a ritual. Cole shared tales of the land, of the ranching life, of his own family, lost long ago to illness and circumstance. Nayeli and Ayoka listened intently, faces illuminated by flickering flames, absorbing the stories with curiosity and respect. In return, they shared stories of the Apache lands, their traditions, songs, and the strength of their ancestors who had roamed the plains with the wind as companion. Cole listened, fascinated, realizing that he had underestimated the depth of the girls' knowledge and resilience. One evening, as the stars stretched across the sky like scattered diamonds, Cole realized that the loneliness he had carried for so long was lifting. The weight of isolation, the ever-present shadow of monotony, was gradually replaced by companionship and trust. Nayeli and Ayoka were not only helping with the work, they were filling a void he hadn't realized existed. Their presence made the ranch feel alive, vibrant, and meaningful in a way he hadn't experienced for years. Yet, the West was never forgiving, and peace was always tenuous. Bandits could strike without warning, neighbors might misunderstand intentions, and the prejudices of the era were an ever-present threat. Cole knew that allowing two Apache girls to live on his land might bring judgment or danger. But in that moment, seated by the fire with the girls' voices mingling with the crackle of flames, he made a silent promise: no matter what came, they would be safe on his land as long as he drew breath. The first storm of the season rolled in, wind lashing across the plain with a force that bent sagebrush and sent dust swirling in every direction. Cole, Nayeli, and Ayoka worked side by side to secure the barns and reinforce fences. The girls moved with astonishing speed and coordination, learning from Cole's instructions and adding their own ingenuity. They used ropes and stakes, checked the livestock, and even devised clever methods to protect the weaker animals from the storm. By the time the wind subsided, Cole realized that he had never relied on anyone so completely, and that he trusted these girls with not only the ranch but also his life. As the storm cleared and the night sky returned, filled with constellations reflecting off the cool desert air, Cole felt a rare sense of contentment. The ranch was safe, the girls were unharmed, and a bond had been formed that went beyond mere survival. It was trust, respect, and the quiet understanding that some connections, though unexpected, could change the course of life forever. By the fire, Cole saw Nayeli and Ayoka's faces illuminated with pride and accomplishment. He saw strength, resilience, and an unspoken promise of loyalty. And in that glow, he realized that the land he had called home for so long was not merely a stretch of desert and mesa, it was a place where hearts could heal, where courage could flourish, and where even the most isolated souls could find family. From that night onward, the ranch thrummed with a new rhythm. Tasks once tedious became shared burdens. Solitude became companionship. And through every trial, storm, and sunset, Cole knew that he had made the right choice. Nayeli and Ayoka were not merely guests, they were part of his life, part of the ranch, part of the story that was unfolding across the endless, wild expanse of the West. The desert stretched endlessly, wild and untamed, but for Cole, Nayeli, and Ayoka, it had become a land of promise, of safety, and of unexpected joy. And in that vast, unforgiving frontier, they had found a rare treasure, each other.